Hi, I'm Tuan Lam, the creator and host of the TruthDare show. To me, there's nothing more important than living and being your truth. So I set up this platform to have intimate conversations with people who have found their true calling, and they're using that power to help others. And the goal is to dare you to find your truth. I want to introduce you to Dr. Gladys Ato, my soul sister on many levels, personally, professionally, spiritually, and even aesthetically. Even our apartments look the same. She's a psychologist and author of The Good Goodbye, which walks you through a unique process of how to say goodbye to things that don't serve you anymore. She's no stranger to goodbyes herself. She suddenly lost her mom to a brain aneurysm and eventually became a university president and had to say goodbye to her whole staff and shut down the university. And speaking of goodbyes, and since we're telling the truth here, I'm gonna drop a truth bomb on you. This summer has been one of the hardest summers of my life because I had to deal with the grief and the loss of my brother-in-law who committed suicide. And just being around Gladys and learning from her words of wisdom has helped me say goodbye in a good way or the best way possible. And so my goal for you is that you'll learn how to say goodbye in the best way possible. And I'm so excited! Oh my God! I know! Oh my God! I know! So finally, we're able to do this.
Honey, it's happening!
I know.
I love it.
I'm getting hot flashes.
I know.
But I am so honored that you invited us into your home and
thank you.
for you to be on this platform that's so near and dear to me. And we're like personally, professionally, and spiritually, like we're on so many of the aligned paths. And even your beautiful home here, some of the volunteers, interns came and they were just like, oh my God, that looks like your home.
Yeah, we have similar style.
And to be able to share that, our personal strengths and weaknesses and struggles, and triumphs, I mean, it's been such a blessing. And I have not told you this yet, but you know, even though we've known each other only for 3 months, you know that I had the hardest summer ever with the loss of my brother-in-law who committed suicide, and just you being around me just makes me feel more alive, and it's really like helped me heal. And so it's just so perfect that right now, you know, we're here talking about The Good Goodbye, your new book. I'm so proud of you. That it's out! It's alive! It's alive! Yes!
Thank you, sweetie.
And so I want to talk about your whole journey about that, but gosh, it's just, this had been such a hard summer for me, and just trying to process saying goodbye to my brother-in-law, whom I've known pretty much since I was 10, and now I'm 40.
Yeah.
And aside from just the personal, you know, counseling, just us being able to play and be has really helped me heal and understand that goodbyes aren't always a bad thing. And that's the gift that you've given me. And so I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, I want to...
Thank you, honey.
Yes,
thank
it's been very special. So I know that you've said goodbye to a lot of people because you lost your mom not so long ago.
2003, I lost her.
Oh, long ago. Yeah.
And that it doesn't feel like it was that long ago.
Isn't it funny how grief works?
Oh yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know, 2003, I was trying to figure out my life. I was already a doctor and thinking of having my private practice, and losing her changed my entire life immediately. She died from a brain aneurysm. So I saw her Thursday here in San Francisco, actually. It was the first time that I got to show my art to people, because normally I painted in secret and then all my paintings were in a closet, but I had an opportunity to showcase my art, and we had a beautiful reception in downtown San Francisco. And went to dinner. I was with a partner at the time. You know, it's just my sister had a partner. It felt like everything was complete. And the next day, she died very suddenly. So everything flipped upside down. And when you face a big tragedy or a loss or any kind of change, you are immediately thrown into a place of transition. And that transition space is so scary because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But what you knew to be reality is gone. And that's a big part of what my mom's death really taught me, is that life is unpredictable.
Totally.
And life will change in a millisecond. So how do you navigate those moments where change happens so quickly and not get stuck or be so burdened by it that you can't function anymore.
Yeah, and you know, my story, I lost 4 family members pretty much around the same time you lost your mom. My dad, my aunt, a few months later, they both died of cancer, and then my 2 grandmothers who, you know, abuelitas in the Latina Asian community, they're like our second parents, you know? And so losing 4 people in such a short amount of time, in a year's time, really shook my world. I literally felt like somebody took my world and just shook it. Right? And I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know how to grieve. And like I always say that in life, you have experiences both good and bad, and they're like little dots that you scatter behind you, and then you can kind of connect them. And connecting them and meeting you has really taught me that, you know what, there are a lot of good things that came out of it. Like we're here right now talking on this platform, my baby, my talk show, right? And being able to find my nonprofit, Go Inspire Go, and then just to find truly who I am. And it made me realize in terms of time-wise, because time, I feel like is almost like it's a made-up thing. It's almost like money.
It is. And there is no such thing as
time. But you realize that when they're taken away like that, your mom, my family members, that, you know what, like this is what's so important. And we, you know, we shop together, we've eaten together, we've gone to the redwoods, we take walks all the time.
I know, I love it.
And I love our conversations just around like the connectedness that we have and about finding what's really important and our message. Our true message, and then sharing that with the world. And I love the Good Goodbye title because it's so multi-layered. Like from the juxtaposition of goodbyes, wait, there's a good way to say goodbye, right? And then also it's like there's a good way that you can say goodbye. So how did you even come up with this title and this book? It's something that just like God was like, hey, you gotta write this. And I'm gonna deconstruct your world.
Completely. This is in my book, and to share it here, when my mom died, at the funeral, I was devastated. There really aren't words to describe what that loss is like when you lose a parent, and especially your mommy. You know, it just it was heartbreaking, and I remember not being able to function on anything other than just breathing and taking one step in front of the other. And when we got to the cemetery, we got out of the car. Everyone's bawling, and all of a sudden a mariachi band started playing. And I thought, who the hell hired a mariachi band? This is not a time for celebration. This is inappropriate. There's an immediate sense of anger because I didn't realize that was part of the Latino culture. And mariachi music for me is something that just lights me up. I mean, it's an immediate infusion of joy and celebration.
So you just got confused.
I got completely confused in my brain. And you know how Tony Robbins talks about how if you really want to make a difference in your life, you got to shock your mind into thinking something different? That was my gentle shock because it confused my brain enough to not understand what was happening. But I realized there's no way I can let this joy in right now. I'm devastated. When they brought my mom's coffin out to take her to her final resting place, I had this very magical experience of being infused with her spirit. And you know, whether you believe in spirits or not, it doesn't take away from what I experienced, is that physiologically I felt her joy.
How? Like what are you feeling?
My heart burst open with pure love and joy. It's not the kind of love and joy of like, I'm having a great meal, this is so awesome, or look at my fantastic dress with flamingos on it. Totally different. It was pure love. And I knew in that moment that my mom was happy. I knew she wasn't suffering. I knew that her leaving this earth was the best thing for her, and I knew it was the best thing for my family. And that moment of pure love and joy, I knew it was my mom giving me a gift. And I blurted out at the funeral, "Mommy's so happy right now." And then my dad said,
like, "You're crazy."
Yeah, my dad was like, "Yeah." And his response of simply, made me realize, oh my God, we're at a funeral. We're at my mom's funeral. Oh my God, my mom died. Right? And all of that wrapped up in a matter of seconds. But I walked away from that experience accepting her death. And that became the foundation of my book. So, you know, The Good Goodbye is multi-layered. And for me, what I really want to get across to people is that you can experience joy and grief at the same time. And
that's interesting.
It's not easy to do, right? Because if you think about it, they're
you feel
contrasting.
Guilty, you're going through a lot of different emotions
Absolutely.
that you can't name.
Exactly.
Yes.
But they can coexist. And what I want people to start to make room for is appreciating that you have an emotional spectrum, right? So grief is at one end and joy and celebration is on the other.
It's like the pendulum you talk about in the book.
Exactly, exactly. So how do you allow yourself to let that pendulum swing from one end to the other until you get to that place, whatever that place in the middle is for you? Balance isn't the right word because that implies zen and everything's fine. But how do you let that pendulum swing to a place where you feel balanced enough to be able to integrate the loss in a way that helps you move forward?
This is how aligned we are, because I was just interviewing like a very famous CrossFit coach, Kelly Starrett. We're talking about balance and how the word balance itself is kind of BS, because when you spin a top, it's really trying to always find its balance, but it looks balanced sometimes. And I feel like that's the way like you and I are perceived in our, we'll talk about saying goodbye to your job and other parts of your life in a little bit too, but you had a high profile job in education, and I was a TV reporter, a co-host for a show on PBS, and on the outside, people might look at you and say, oh, isn't she cute with her, stilettos and her flamingo dress and her stripes, which you are, but that, people automatically think that, oh, she's got it all, everything is perfect. And also saying goodbye to that feeling when you come up and you're judging people, or saying goodbye to having to feel perfect yourself is just so powerful.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So how did this good goodbye, like the title itself, it's so catchy and I love it. How did that kind of come up?
Gosh, I wish I had that exact moment, but I don't. Rather, after my mom died, I just found my own self thinking about how do I approach change, right? And how do I deal with losses in my life? And I want to make it a good goodbye. And I know the phrase is out there, right? So I didn't coin the phrase, but the meaning of it for me was truly, how do I allow myself to let go with grace? How do I allow myself to be open to the pain and the joy, but really be intentional about how I move through it? And so I've had plenty of relationship breakups to practice. Didn't do a good goodbye at all. We'll talk about that later. Friendships that I've lost. And I mean, I've had a lot of not good goodbyes. And I think the reflection of my own life made me understand that I wasn't dealing with goodbyes well for several years. I was very scared about change. I would grip onto something even though it was over. I would get angry, right, if things changed in my life, because I was very much wanting things to be under my control. So the good goodbye gave me a way to just personally remind myself that I want to make this a good experience. I want to find the good in what I'm going to take away as learnings, and that can help me let go with more ease.
What I also love so much about this, the timing that the universe sends us people and things to help nurture us. Like Eckhart Tolle says in his book, I think it was A New Earth, where he says the universe conspires to help us, but the sunlight, until the shutters are open, the sunlight can't come in, or something like that. And it's just, and it's so true. I think people, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, kind of guides us in a certain way. And we've only met a few months ago, but seriously, like I feel like every time we come together, we're kids that are playing. And you've helped me say goodbye to something that happened to me that was super tragic recently, but you've also opened up the space for me to be okay with, sometimes I'm really happy, like, while I'm grieving, and I just feel so bad about feeling happy when my brother-in-law just died, and I'm like, wait, maybe like, and I was just kind of burying it, and then when it surfaces, grief is just a wicked, weird thing.
We have so many stories that we've told ourselves about what it means to grieve, how to grieve appropriately.
In every culture.
Everywhere, right? And it's not just around grieving, but it's also, change. But you hear the stories, right? Like, I don't deal with goodbyes. Well, goodbyes are too hard. Or I don't say goodbye. I'll see you later. I don't believe in goodbyes. We'll meet again. These are all stories, and what we call them is collective stories that we have as a species that are ingrained in our unconscious. And those collective stories influence how we perceive the world in front of us. So if you have a belief that goodbyes are hard, what's going to happen when a goodbye moment comes up?
It's hard.
It's hard, right?
You don't really process the way or grieve the way that naturally you should.
That you can, right? I don't believe in shoulds, right? But you don't allow yourself the opportunity to explore all the other ways of grieving. So Are goodbyes hard? Absolutely. But can they be joyful? Absolutely. And when we allow ourselves to start to look at our own personal stories around change and transitions and goodbyes and loss, we can then be intentional in saying, okay, does this story serve me, or does it actually hurt me and hinder me?
So people that are watching and listening are probably thinking, like, how do you say, like, something is joyful, like suicide that just happened with me? Like, how do you, or a job loss where you have to feed your kids?
Yeah.
So how is that joyful?
Yeah.
Like, how do you?
That's a hard one. It's one thing that I really hope to get across in my book, and I've mentioned it over and over, is that this is not a prescriptive approach, right? This is not a literal step-by-step. In
And
fact,
you don't believe in steps.
No, I don't even use the word steps. I use pillars, right? That these are pillars, the approach itself, 5 pillars, because something like suicide, right? Or if you lose your child, or if you suddenly lose your job and you may not be able to pay your mortgage, those are life-threatening moments, right? And those are what we call traumas. And when you're dealing with trauma, you're not going to easily access joy. And it's not a matter of saying, okay, I just lost somebody, so I'm going to feel grief and I'm going to feel joy and I'm going to feel them now and I'm good. No. Instead, it's going to be, there is joy somewhere, right? But how do you make room for it?
Oh, yes.
So that you can eventually go there. And there's a beautiful story in the book. One of the people that I interviewed shared her story about the murder of her brother. And he was 15 when he was killed. This woman found extraordinary power, not in retribution, not in making sure that the person who killed her brother went to jail and suffered, but in social justice. So she went to get a college education so that she could learn how to empower herself to make a difference in her communities through the power of education. That's joyful.
Yes. But it's funny because that's not what people think is joy, those steps. Like in me losing, I lost my job. I was going to quit anyway, but I lost that. And at first it feels like somebody's like, you know, literally like snatching your bag or snatching your wallet or whatnot. And then now when I look back, I'm like, wow, that put me on this different trajectory. Because my path wasn't my story. My authentic path and story wasn't supposed to be small market, TV market or city, medium city, and then big city, and then network. That's what I thought. And then it allowed me to go way beyond what I could even imagine. Like us even having this conversation and meeting you would have never happened if I followed this same trajectory. And being able to listen to that. And now that you're talking, it actually is helping me kind of process still these deaths from like 2000 and my brother-in-law's recent death. Because you know what, I'm like, I was just thinking, wow, well, you know, they were in Fort Myers, Florida, and now my sister and her 2 kids, 12 and 8, Drew and Serena, awesome. You've met them before.
They're beautiful,
Love Bug's best friends. But now they're back in Sacramento with family, and they have a whole different life before and after my brother-in-law. And so that is a beautiful thing too, is that connectedness. And I just started to like literally feel warm, you know, in the last, you know, couple weeks. Because you just feel so cold and hollow inside when something like that happens. But there's been, you know, in terms of universal timing, us meeting and you helping me through this, and also, do you believe it was universal timing that you also lost your job? Because you're saying goodbye. Not only, people think, oh, you're literally losing a family member, a loved one, but there's so many ways of grieving your job, your freedom when you become a parent, if you become an amputee or whatever. One of my friends is an amputee, like the loss of that. So it's so multi-layered. Did this kind of help you, like at what point did you, you know, if you could talk a little bit about your job and how that all kind of deconstructed. Okay, Truth Tribers, here's the takeaway. I couldn't help but reflect on my own loss. I talked about the suicide of my brother-in-law this summer that really just brought me to a very deep, dark place. And I want you to start to reflect on your loss and your goodbyes. And what I realized through our conversation is that grief is not a linear process. And letting go with grace does mean that there will be intermittent parts where you feel joy and parts where you feel deep grief. And it's okay to feel happy and sad and all of those emotions. and own it and sit with it and deal with it the best way you can. The best way I'm able to deal with it is to talk to people and to journal and to exercise. So just stay there. I know it's hard, but just be in that deep, unpredictable place. And it's foggy, but I promise it'll one day become clear.
Absolutely. You know, one thing that the word that came up to when you were talking is faith. And I don't mean religious faith, all right, but rather having faith that you are protected in this world. That's what helps you get through. And when you have faith that the world is, you know, the universe, God, spirit, Buddha, whatever you believe in is looking at you, you know, and has your best interests at heart, joy will come one day. And all these changes and losses are there to help you get back onto your destined path. And that happened to me. You know, I'm a psychologist, right? I thought I was going to go to grad school and have a private practice, and I ended up on an amazing 15-year career in higher education, where I started as a professor teaching, and then my last position, I was the president of the National Hispanic University, which was in San Jose here in California. And little did I know, or did any of us know, that that time was going to be a time where I could actually put the good goodbye into practice. So about 6 months after I arrived at the university and became president, the board of directors started to put serious consideration into the vitality of the school going on in the future. And it was 34 years of the university had been open. So this was a beautiful little university that was built on so much love and deep faith and commitment to supporting Latinos
And
to get education.
by people that also had really big names. And
oh my gosh. I mean, the amount of support that this university had was phenomenal, right? And Dr. Roberto Cruz, the founder, really believed that and this is back in, you know, like 80s, believed that Latinos needed a place to go to college and get educated, because, you know, we have these stereotypes of Latinos and we are often forgotten. And I can feel myself wanting to go on a tangent politically, but I'm not going to, but I will say.
That's a whole nother episode.
I just, you know, it's something that I observe over and over again, is that Latinos kind of get left in the background. And even now, politically, we're dealing with so much stuff, and Black Lives Matter, right? Like, so do Latino lives, right?
Absolutely.
And we had this university that was dedicated to empowering Latinos, and 34 years of constant struggle financially, constant struggle to bring in more students and really grow. So when we learned that we might be closing the school, it was total shock, and this moment of, what the hell are we supposed to do? Like, I don't know how to close a university.
Yeah, right? Because, wait, so first and foremost, you didn't even think that you'd ever be the president of a
No,
university, right?
no.
And now, like, there's no guidebook to how to close down a university.
Not at all, no. And I would tell my team that, right? I don't have a guidebook in my desk.
And then saying goodbye to everybody. You had to also say goodbye to say goodbye, this is closing, see you later, we have to cut your position.
Everybody.
So how long had you been at the university?
Less than a year.
Oh wow!
And we started to implement plans and strategies to start to move towards closure. So once the board made that decision, it was the next year and a half was all about shepherding the students to their new home, whether they were transferring to another school or graduating. It was really important that we did our best to graduate as many students as possible. All the employees obviously had a transition, and so we created bridges for everybody. That was the goal, is that everybody would have a bridge to something else.
So interesting.
And I remember one day going back into my office and saying, because I had just talked to everybody about, you know, a bridge. That was my hope, that was my prayer, is that every single person would have a bridge to lead them to a new chapter that would be even more amazing than what they had. I love that you frame it that way, because sometimes you're just so under so much stress that you don't even have time to think about others. But just because I know you, like, you're like, okay, well, how am I going to use this to help these people kind of move on and know that this is where it's supposed to happen, and you know you're going somewhere better. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was the good goodbye was very much a part of our vocabulary. It was part of our strategy. And I remember going into my office one day and I sat down completely exhausted. I'm like, do I have a bridge? Is there a bridge for me too? Like, who's looking out for my bridge, right? Like, I'm trying to make sure that everybody has a bridge to go to. God, I hope so. And that really was a moment where I realized, oh my gosh, I am now at a crossroads again. So there are two times in my life where I was very clear that the universe was giving me a chance to choose which direction I was going to go in my life. One of them was several years back, actually prior to going into higher ed, where I noticed that the stress was picking up, my responsibilities were building, and I was walking away from that part of Gladys that was very much like, let's look at life. Let's really take in what's happening. I was consulting with beautiful people at the time, and we would joke around like we took time to wonder about
I love
life.
that word. Wonder is one of my favorite words. Wonder is one of my favorite words, and so is the word wonderment.
Yes, yeah.
So what were you wondering?
It was part of our vocabulary. We would wonder with teachers. So I was a mental health consultant to preschool teachers and administrators and parents. So it would be something as simple as, I wonder what Johnny is feeling right now when he throws a toy at Kristen. I wonder what Eric needs. What might he be communicating? These are preschoolers. They're 4 years old, right? But I wonder puts you in a place of openness. And that place of wonder started to get shut down because now I had stress in front of me. I had deadlines to meet. I had responsibilities to keep up. I had people to manage. I had the stress of just managing a big role.
GSD mode. Gisha's done.
GSD mode. I like that. And that became really difficult because I saw myself going through that experience, but I stayed on that path because it was super challenging. I'm a Capricorn, so it's always up the mountain, right? We got to do it the hard way.
Moving on up.
Yeah. And when the university was closing, I realized, okay, universe, you're giving me a second chance. Here are my crossroads. Do I continue on this path that is totally stressful?
Yeah. But high paying and golden handcuffs-ish. No?
It was, high paying golden. I mean, I was a president, right? And I was a young president at the time.
Young Latina female.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I found myself saying no to beautiful opportunities to advance in my career.
Happened to me too, yes.
Yeah, and
but
that's
becomes
where
clear.
it
Isn't that so? How does one become that clear? Because that happened to me too when the network, one of the networks called me, and I was like, no thanks. You know, people are like, you tripping, you know, like, what's wrong with you? But yeah, so like, how do you become that clear and know that, you know, no, I'm going to take time off and then lead you to writing your book?
I know.
And taking time off to write your book.
Self-awareness. You know, it's one thing that I'm a big believer on.
Paying
Two
attention.
things. It's personal growth and self-awareness. Those are the two things that are most important to me. And I knew at that point that there was a dream in my heart that I had shut away. I didn't tell anybody about it except my sister. And I had to be very clear, am I willing to let that dream go? And then potentially at the end of my life have regret that I never pursued it. And that's a big thing for me. You know, if you ever want to really kind of get down to the bottom layer, like save yourself years of therapy, ask yourself, at the end of my life, would I regret not going after this? And if it's a yes, freaking go for it. Right? Because if you don't go for it, you'll never know what's possible. And that goes back to the faith, right? Is you have to really believe that there are forces or angels, whatever you call them, looking out for your best intention. And so I made a decision. I'm going to go after my dream. And I have no idea what it's going to look like. I have no idea what I'm doing. The book wasn't really, the seed was planted, but I didn't know it was going to be what it was. And I decided it's time. I was also really freaking burned out. So, you know, part of me was like, I need to go to Mexico and I just need to be on the beach because my nervous system was shot. You know, I was dealing with that much stress.
But see, you're paying attention to that. Many people don't pay attention to that, and that's how they become ragged. They're physically, mentally, spiritually, they become so Raggedy Ann, really.
And then you get in automatic mode. That's the only way to cope, right? So every day you're just going through the motions.
What's interesting is, as I walk down, because you and I don't have regular 9-to-5 jobs. I mean, so when I'm walking like to teach my class on Wednesdays, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many like robot or zombies, I call it, right? It's just people walking and just doing, just like every day, you're just taught to go furthest away from who you authentically are and just go find this job and then pay the bills. And I get it, we gotta pay bills and we understand that, that's important. You need to eat and live. But like, how does somebody like listen to that? Because I believe that this is what my friend told me. When people tell you, my spiritual friends, when many people tell you the same thing, that's like a god or spirit or whatever nudging you, or I call it screaming at you.
Yeah,
right?
kicking you in the butt.
About you, yeah, right?
Totally.
For me, birthing TruthDare podcast, and for you, birthing your book. But how does one have that like aha, and then like just be like, you know what, I'm just not gonna listen again. Like, versus with us, even though they're broken down, like we were both broken down and we wanted to get out, but still, let's be real, we were getting paid pretty good money, high profile jobs that does something for your ego, when you're, you know, and so how does one say, you know what, like it's goodbye, it's time to say goodbye to this best friend. You know, another thing, you know, if I'm almost 40, so if I live to 80, half my life is over. So I've been cutting out people that don't, for me, doesn't feel joyful and doesn't feel good. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so how does one start with paying attention to that goodbye versus just kind of you keep sweeping it under the rug? Okay, here's the takeaway, or should I say many takeaways, because to date, this conversation has the most takeaways. But the first thought that came to mind is this whole notion of being self-aware in the grief, in the joy, in the sadness, in the happiness, and in our goodbyes, and just being self-aware of how we feel, and not pushing that away and just sitting with that, and realizing that if you don't say goodbye to one thing, that next chapter, you can't say hello to it. And one really big kind of like ding, 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 aha moment that I got was that, gosh, if you don't say goodbye to this, will you have regrets? And Gladys says she doesn't have regrets, and I try not to live my life with regrets either. So if you are in a place where you don't know if you want to say goodbye to something, think about how you'll feel 10, 20, 30 years later, or if you're able to have the blessing of being old and full of wisdom, will you regret it? Do you love yourself enough to say goodbye? And here's the ding, 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 ding moment. Are you betraying yourself if you don't say goodbye? You know, when I was a therapist, so many of the people that what you refer to as broken, right, or zombie, they would come when they were at a place, that breaking point, where the pain was too great for them to ignore anymore. And those breaking points are really critical. Sometimes we have to fall apart. There's a beautiful quote, and I'm going to totally ruin it, but something like, with every breakthrough, there's a breakdown, or with every break, there's a break. Anyway, something about, you know, that you have to have a breakdown before you break through. Wow. Yes. It also goes back to, you know, not giving up on yourself. I'm a big believer that so much of our pain in life, if we drill down through all the layers of what it's about self-love. Yes. So, you know, is it that you're giving up on life, or have you given up on believing that things can be different for you? And if you gave up on believing things could be different for you, that's a place to look at, because there's a part of you inside that's like, don't give up on me, right? Byron Katie, one of the spiritual great author, she says the same thing. She talks about how you are betraying yourself, that like lack of self-love or not paying attention to that, like there's a betrayal, whether it's a job and a boss that, you know, it doesn't see you for your talents, or you're with someone that's not good for you, that is emotionally or physically or mentally abusing you, and just being aware of that. So the self-love is huge, and I think that digging deeper, my self-love moment, I'm just having this like whoa moment, is that I realized that after doing news for almost a decade, I was just like, I'm sick and tired of death and destruction. I'm misusing my power. And no longer do I want to use my power to bring bad news to your life. And that is so powerful. And it's almost like this two words pop up, consciousness, and earlier you're talking about bridge and helping people bridge. So so I would love to, I don't even know this about you. I would love to know, how did you then create bridging consciousness, and explain what bridging consciousness means? Because that's a whole loaded two words. Oh my God, right? I know, what the hell is bridging consciousness? It's too much. So, gosh, long story short, again, you know, when I knew that I made the decision to go after my dream, I had a sense of what that was going to look like, but I didn't know what exactly it was going to be. And a friend of mine had suggested to me, funny story, because I actually thought I was going to call my business Radiant Transformation. And I'm like, woo, Radiant Transformation, right? And he said to me one day, Gladys, I think you're selling yourself short with that name.
That's it's not capturing everything that you have to bring to the world.
I love
and
that
I'm
he's
like,
truthful.
yeah,
Because a lot of people be like, yeah, honey, that's great.
oh yeah, it's
What
great.
else?
Yeah, radiant transformation. Let's have like sparkles coming out of your head. And he came up with the name Bridging Consciousness, and he gifted me the name. And I was like, Bridging Consciousness, whoa. Immediately was like, oh my God, there is an umbrella now that I have that can hold everything that I want to do. And amazingly, you know, when I started to really put strategy into it, what I was creating, I had a moment where I stopped and I'm like, wait a minute. I looked at what I created on my computer screen and I said, what's Hay House doing? And I typed up Hay House's business model. Hay House, the publishers, right? And
books. Yes.
Read Louise Hay's story, you know, and Louise Hayes has now passed. So it's amazing that we learn from the people ahead of us who paved the way for us. But what Hay House had done was created an amazing empire, publishing empire, where they have the top spiritual leaders all over the world writing books, doing workshops, retreats, all of it, right? And here I was in my little apartment in San Francisco typing away saying, I want to do publications, I want to have an online magazine, I want to do retreats, I want to do workshops, and I want to bring I want to do a talk show, right? And I want to bring in the emerging leaders of tomorrow. I've always been invested in supporting and mentoring the next generation of leaders. So I wanted to bring a platform where I could showcase them, because for me, being so young and having so many beautiful opportunities to be in positions of leadership, my first leadership position, I was 28. I was a VP at 34, right? People believed in me and they gave me a chance. And this is my way of paying it forward, is when I see shining stars, I can't help but be like, lady, we're going to shine you even more.
Somebody, And you know what, too, I love about our friendship and seeing your friendships with other people is that we become mirrors for each other, and really truth-telling mirrors. Like, you'll be like, what do you think about this outfit? Or what do you think about this document? Or we'll vice versa, and you'll be like, no. Or right away, we're just like, that opinionated, and we're very strong opinionated people. But at the same time, we know that, you know, like, we want to get your back and tell you the honest truth. And in you speaking right now, just thinking about my path, like with Go Inspire Go is your bridging consciousness. Go Inspire Go created this. I wanted to tell stories about people that are heroes, that are using their power to help others, to inspire you, the viewer, to be the hero and help them. And the beautiful thing about this too, I'm getting another like wowza, awesome, like ding 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 moment right now, is that, you know, in meeting you when you were a little girl, you were saying, you know what, which is surprising to me, because look at you, you're like, when you walk into a room, you fill it up. You do. And so you do.
Honey.
You do in so many ways.
Thank you,
even when we're in our, you know, our workout gear, like just going on a walk. the presence is just so amazing. And I can't believe that when you were a little girl, you said you felt like you didn't have a voice and that you were invisible.
That was my goal.
Your goal?
It was my goal to be invisible. I was bullied at school. Home was not an easy place to be, so I didn't have a safe place as a little girl. And I remember going to school. It was heartbreaking. You know, it's. I have done my therapy. I have done so much healing work, 15 years. But the one thing that I don't talk about much is what happened at school. Because it was really freaking hard.
Like, what would they make fun of? I mean, like,
so when I was little, I was dark skinned, ashy elbows, I had the bushy hair, I had the buck teeth, I had the glasses. This is all in second grade. And I was an introvert, number one. I was born into this world an introvert.
Quiet, seem like you have no voice, and they pick on you.
And then I was also terrified. So that energy, kids pick up on energy like more than that's what they know. And I was an easy target because my energy was so insecure.
And how old are you at this time?
This is elementary school. Yeah.
Like younger, like first, second, or fourth, fifth?
Like, oh God, I think starting fourth grade all the way through high school.
Yeah, so you're also like, puberty happens, you're just... changes.
Yeah, but when you're in elementary school, I mean, it's just all you want is to just be loved. You know, all you want is to just feel accepted and have friends to eat lunch with.
That's everywhere. Like we all want to, at the end of the day, be seen, heard, felt, right, and understood. Seen, like, hi, I see you. You're awesome. You're freaking awesome. Yeah.
And when you don't get that as a child, it's very hard to know that it's not because of you, right?
Yeah.
And the messages that I internalized
powerful.
was that I was ugly, that I wasn't lovable, and that there was something wrong with me. And I remember in classes like watching my peers and trying to copy how they sat, but I was so scared. And this is so interesting, this is coming up. I was sitting at my desk, and I remember I don't even know if I can do it anymore. It's flexibility, but I would sit. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but basically like a pretzel, right? I would.
Wow.
If you'd see how tight I am, I would wind my legs up around each other because I was I was scared.
Wow.
And I remember seeing one of my peers look at my legs, and she tried to do it herself, and then that became a reason that I would get laughed at. I mean there are so many stories and moments, and I don't like talking about it because I think for me it was such a place of pain that I know I still carry it.
I could feel that energy.
Yeah.
But in talking, thank you so much for talking about it, because I feel like it gives people permission. You know, because you look at you and you're like, damn, she's fabulous. Or like, you're one of the most confident women I've ever met. So
I love you.
Love you too. And like the fact that you can say that you had that little boy. I believe everybody has like a little boy or a little girl that comes out. Like for me, I was told I was fat and ugly by some family members. I mean, I have a great family. I tell the story now all the time, but I've just started telling it. Because I was always afraid to tell it. I'm like, oh, Asian families are just like that, or oh, that's how school is, or that's how immigrant poor families are. And then now I'm like, no, that's not okay. No. And so one of the things you've helped me realize too is to say, you know what? I remember I would tell you, this little boy, 10-year-old Tuan, comes and is super insecure and thinks he's chubby still, and I'm not chubby, and I've gotten a lot of jobs because, they see you on the reel, you look good, then they listen to it, whatever. These are my bosses from the TV world telling me. But I've never felt like that.
Yeah.
You know, and until you and I had many conversations just about like, just self-love, and then, and just being able to say, you said, no, Tuan, don't say goodbye to that boy. He's here to just remind you and ground you, and for you to say, hi, thanks for being here, and I'm so sorry that this had happened to you.
Yeah.
I remember that conversation
oh
we
my
had.
God,
Yes.
honey, and that came, through a healer that I saw, Amit West. I worked with her for 6 years here in San Francisco, and she helped me bring back my little girl, right? Like she helped not just my little girl, but all the different parts of Gladys over my life that I discarded, that I fragmented myself from, that I left behind because I had no self-love. And my whole 20s, no love for myself.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's just, I'm blessed by angels, that I was put on a path where I became a psychologist, right? And, a lot of people that go into the field of psychology, they're wounded. They call them the wounded healers,
Yeah. Usually
right?
people are like, when you get into psychology, they're like, oh, okay, you cray. Or that's
psycho.
But this makes so much sense now, because like everything that's happened to you, you found the good in it. And, and I just hope that people just dare to say, self-love, and that you find that goodness in whatever situation that you're in, and say, no, I'm better.
Yeah.
Because all the spiritual greats, like the books that we always talk about, the authors we love, like Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle, and all of them, Marianne Williamson, like they've all reached this point where they would have to say goodbye to something. And I love that you're breaking this taboo of saying that, goodbyes aren't necessarily a bad thing.
No.
They're not.
No.
And they're here because they're helping grow you and challenge you. Whew, this takeaway is good. This part gave me the chills. I couldn't help but think about one of our listeners who's in his late 20s, lives in San Francisco, is in finance, and his mom is a tiger mom. And he told me that after listening to some of the podcasts in season 1 and hearing about my story about my career and coming out about my truth about my career, he mustered up the courage to tell his parents, Mom, Dad, I know I have an awesome career in finance. I bought this awesome condo, but I'm so unhappy. I'm so unhappy. And if I could just cook for people every day, Korean popcorn chicken, or somehow create a business around it, I would be so happy. I don't even need my condo. But he said, I'm going to be smart about it, because he heard me talk about just making an action plan and exit strategy. He said that he will come up with an exit strategy, but he is going to pursue his career in the culinary world. Yes, and talk about disregarding those parts of ourselves that are yucky. Like, I didn't expect to talk about suicide. Gladys did not expect to talk about being bullied. But when you face those fears and you talk about it and you are able to say goodbye to it and thank you for teaching me what you came here to teach me situation, or 10-year-old little insecure boy or girl, then you know what? I got it. Then that's the way we say goodbye in a good way. Oh, and one last thing. Fear is not the enemy. So invite it in, sit with it, work through it, talk through it, do whatever you need, and say goodbye. So I dare you to trust your truth so that you can have a good goodbye. And I'm just getting this image of the diamond, and I'm looking at your crystals back there, but it's almost like diamonds have to succumb to a certain amount of pressure to become a diamond.
Yes.
And it's like the diamond in all of us, the pressure is everything that's happened to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's been so much healing that's happened in our friendship that I don't even, I mean, that's another podcast, but there's I'm so excited about your book. It's on Amazon.
Yes, it is. The book's on Amazon, and there's freebies available for people too. You know, I've got a beautiful gift that I want to share with folks that are interested. If they're not ready to dive into the book, if you go to drgladysato.com, you'll be able to... DrGladysAto.com, and we'll put it on our show notes on the blog. Perfect. But I have a free mini ebook that you can download, and that really talks about relationships and going through breakups, right? It's a juicy topic, but
how to get up in the morning.
How to get out of bed after a breakup. And one of your beautiful interns helped me come up with Shirley. Thank you, Shirley. I asked Shirley, you know what would you want to learn if you're going through a breakup?
She's your target audience.
Oh my God, yeah. And she goes,
millennial-ish.
just how to get out of bed. Because you're in so much pain. I'm like, oh my God, honey, you're right. Like, that's the hardest thing. And we focus so much on, like, how do we become so aware and enlightened and da-da-da.
Like,
no, it's just...
Start with the basics.
Get
up.
Yeah.
Show up.
Yep.
Ooh.
So this is a free gift for everybody, for
awesome.
anybody that wants to dive into it. But it's not just breakups. It's also friendship endings, right? Or career changes, right? It's anything that you're giving up or losing.
Saying goodbye to a part of yourself, whether you're coming out as like gay, bi, transgender, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Saying goodbye to who you thought you were.
Identity is a big part.
Yeah, what we were taught you were.
Yeah.
And the taboo part, I love. There's so many like little yummy little gems in here, but I love that you say here that as a society we don't embrace change and endings well. And you're so changing that with this, and I love that you're not. I love the whole you don't believe in steps thing, because there are no complete steps, or like here, step 1, step 2, step 3 of grief. People we're taught that. Like I was taught that.
Yeah.
I remember I would call you and say, Gladys, I don't know why I feel so sad today. When I was like, and I don't know why I feel so happy. And this just happened, and somebody died, you know, and I just felt weird, you know. And so you're really breaking that taboo. And I'm really, you've taught me to unlearn that. And here you go on to say, to create a new collective story about goodbyes. And I love that in the book you have little nuggets and gems of stories of other people. So it's not just like you preaching, always preaching, you know, which I can listen to you preach all day. We need to change how we view change. We need to accept that every change comes with an ending.
God, when you say it gives me tingles. Wow.
Whoa. This is like me reading. I know, right?
Yeah. Tell me more.
And that an ending, whether it be of a life, relationship, job, or limiting belief. I love that you added that in there. This limiting belief that we all have a belief that limits us. And I want you to think about that for a second. Means a death of its existence in that state.
Yeah.
Oof. Like, how do you, like, where did you come up with this brilliance?
Oh.
Like, wordsmith and all that. You're
well, I had a beautiful editor to help me too. So Carrie Jones helped me a lot with this, my beautiful editor. You know, we don't talk about death very well, right? And even Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, so she came up with the grieving model, right? And we're very familiar with the 5 stages of grieving, right? So it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance at the very end, right?
Yes.
So we as humans tend to be so freaking literal that we're like, okay, now I'm in denial, now I'm in anger, right?
Truth be told, yes. And acceptance at the end, yes.
Yeah, and that's my destined path, which is beautiful, you know. But the one thing that I really feel for Kubler-Ross, because she was misunderstood, right? She wrote this model based on her working with the terminally ill. So they were already facing death. And we took it because we needed something as a society to help us understand how to move through change and loss. And so we took it, we made it literal, we applied it to everything, and then it's 5 steps in that order. It's not linear.
No.
She even said it's not linear, right? But what I want to do is actually give people a new way of thinking about it, which is you don't have to wait for acceptance to come at the end. And that's what my mother gave me as a gift, is that at her funeral, I accepted her death completely. Did that mean I didn't grieve? Absolutely not.
Because people think, oh, you accepted it, you're
it's
done.
over.
Yeah.
No, acceptance in my book.
What happens, happens.
Yes. It simply means recognizing what's in front of you as it is without trying to change it and without trying to make it different than what it is. So, yeah.
Oh, and there's just so many like little bits in speaking of change. You said when you accept that every change, including the ending of life, is a death and opening to a new opportunity, you take the charge out of what you fear.
Yeah. We invest a lot of mental and emotional energy keeping our fears way alive, right? So the stories you tell yourself.
It kills us, literally.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Either bit by bit or through suicide or through eating or drugs, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And even, I mean, we all have fears, right? Like my fear around publishing the book, I was terrified for a couple months. I was like, what the hell did I just do? Why did whose idea was it to write this book? I don't want to put it out there. Like, I'm not sure. I used to tell people, I feel like I'm handing my messy underwear drawer. My underwear drawer is not messy.
Yo, you got a cute underwear drawer.
You haven't seen it. But that's what it felt like, right? That I was just showing my vulnerable, messy self to the world, and it was terrifying. But when you continue to feed the fear, like, oh my God, I can't do this. Oh my God, this is too hard. I can't. You feed the fear becomes bigger, but fear is just in your mind. Fear is not these beautiful flowers, right? Fear is not you or this iPad. Fear is a thought. And so you're feeding a thought that then grows, but the reality isn't that. And I think people sometimes put so much investment in the fear that then the fear becomes a reality.
Yes, because you're giving that energy.
Exactly. Wow. So then you behave in a way to make that fear true. You think in a way and feel in a way to support that fear being...
You're attracting it,
Absolutely.
And you're creating that reality now.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So how do you then say goodbye to the fear in a good way?
Oh, this again, I credit Amit a lot because she really helped me learn that you can embrace your fear. We get taught over and over and over again in this society that fear is bad. Banish the fear, kick the fear out of here, fear less. No, fear is actually keeping you alive, right? Fight or flight, that's fear-based. So fear is not the demon here, right? It's your investment in the fear being your truth. So one thing that she really helped me with is embrace your fear, right? If you're scared, don't talk yourself out of not being scared. Invite your scared parts in, right? If you feel anxious about something, that is. It's sitting with yourself. And how many of us like to actually sit with ourselves and be like, there's some yucky stuff in here, I don't want to look at it. Yeah. That's why we check out. And that's why earlier you were talking about the zombies. It's too painful to look inside, so we put a wall up and check out.
You know, it's interesting when you said that. I realize that helps me heal when I look at the yucky stuff, because then I'm like, you know what, I feel like this. Gladys, or I call a friend or a soul brother, sister, or somebody, or you can go see a psychiatrist or psychologist or somebody, then you're like, you work through the yucky, so that it's almost like if you keep sweeping junk dust underneath the carpet, it's going to be a lump. Yeah. And then it manifests in disease and mental illnesses.
Yeah, and then your apartment smells like dust.
Yeah, right?
Totally.
So as you say goodbye to... No, you've already said goodbye in terms of like, okay, goodbye, I'm done with this book. It's out for the world to see, and like, so beautiful. The book aesthetic is just like you. It's just gorgeous, and your energy, and like that's such a beautiful gift you're giving to people. And then the freebie on how to get out of bed after breakup. Yeah. What is next in terms of like teachings and learnings and online classes and stuff? Like what do you have in store for others? The yummy stuff.
Part of my big vision, the yummy stuff. I'm an educator.
Not that this isn't yummy already, but it's almost like this extra dessert.
I know, the cherry on top. because I'm an educator, education is so important to me. And I mentioned earlier that I really am focused on mentoring the next generation of leaders, and in particular, thought leaders, right? So thought leadership is something that I've been invested in for several years because I've been blessed to be in positions of leadership, but really helping change the way we think about things. So this book is my contribution as a thought leader, and I really want to take that to the next level too, in terms of offering online courses for people and mentoring the next generation of thought leaders.
Love it.
So programs that I'm offering specifically for Changemakers, Lightworkers, people that know they have something powerful to give to this world, but they're stuck.
Yes.
They don't know how to take it to the next level. And the areas that I'm most focused and passionate about are communication and psychology-based principles to help you stand out from the crowd,
love it.
to help you bring your message to a higher
Bring
platform.
your swag, bring your authenticity.
Get noticed, right? I mean,
Fill up the
look at
room.
me. I obviously get noticed, right? Like I've gotten used to it.
You've gotten used to it. You tell me that you've been invisible as a kid, and now looking at you, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So what is like a beautiful gift that you found that, and I just hope that people that are listening, watching, just realize that, you have a gift, you know, and sometimes you need, people like you or me or other people to say, hey, that really, I need you to help me pull that gift out and extrapolate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're both doing this with our platforms, right? And the way that I say, I see shining stars. When I meet certain people, I see them and I'm like, you are a shining star. And I just naturally want to say,
so powerful.
let's
to
make,
be seen.
exactly, let's make your light shine even brighter.
I
And
love that.
it gives me the greatest sense of satisfaction to be able to educate, to be able to guide and mentor, to be able to also be strategic with them, because I'm a total strategist, right? But to be able to sit down with somebody and it's, what are your issues? What are you struggling with? We're going to figure out a freaking plan. And I invest in figuring out the plan.
And figuring out a blueprint and figuring out, okay, here, now you got this, move different types of nuts. Like, here's your roadmap, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. To you.
And to do the
you.
research, right?
So
I roll my
awesome.
sleeves up with people.
Yeah. Love that. Can I ask you a couple quick questions and you
Sure.
can answer it really quick?
Sure.
What is your superhero power that you have now?
My superhero power that I have now, the ability to see people's magic in their hearts.
Ooh. One that you wish you had, superhero power you wish you had.
Oh my God, it's that fairy dust sprinkling over somebody and poof, you become who I know you already are.
That. You change energy. Yeah, you do.
Thank you.
Yes. But in a strategic, badass way. Like, okay, this is what you need to get done. I want to be real with you. Yeah,
but if I had that fairy dust, it'd just be like, there, and it just happened.
But they have to do the work too.
I know,
yes,
but
I know.
you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can play. Of course, you're wearing this. Of course, you can play.
That would be my superpower.
Yes. Pet peeve.
Oh my God. People, and I think I might be talking to one that have 4,000 freaking emails in their inbox that are unopened.
No more than that.
Drives me bonkers. Oh my God.
Yes.
I am hyper
hilarious.
organized. You will never find more than 20 emails, period, in my inbox.
Wow, I know, wow.
I have folders for everything. So
Can you
I've
help
seen
me clean
this.
out my inbox?
Yes.
I need some help. Yes.
Clean it out. And let me tell you really quickly why. It's energy. It's energy that you're keeping there that you're not addressing. So it's like having a garbage bag that is over full. It just happens to be electronic.
I need to say goodbye to it though, literally, because I'm like, what if I need it? But then it's deleted.
You don't.
Yeah, I know.
You don't.
I know, that's another thing. Okay, we got work. We got work to do, right? Failure means.
Oh my God, you know what came up immediately? Success.
Oh.
I know, and I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense, but that's the immediate word that came up.
Oh, I love that. What I regret.
Oh, I don't have regrets. That's one thing that's been a huge motivator in my life is to live my life without regret. There have been moments where I'm sad. I did things, like I'm sad when I've gotten angry instead of really sharing that I was hurt. I'm sad that I have been a reason that I've lost certain relationships or friendships, right? Because I wasn't more aware of my actions. But I've been able to move through into a place where self-forgiveness has played a huge role to not have regret grow.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Self-love and self-forgiveness, those two kind of topics keep kind of coming up today.
Yeah.
My biggest accomplishment or what you're most proud of?
Oh, gosh.
I know. Rescue.
It is. Yeah. Yes. I am very proud of writing this book, but I think I'm really proud of my little bubbies here. She's a shelter puppy. And she had a really freaking hard first year of life. She definitely had her own traumas that she came from. And so getting her was really freaking hard because animals are your total mirrors. Yes. And she was so freaking anxious. I mean, we would go down a walk.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I mean, she'd freak out at everything.
Yes. Oh, we're coming back. Oh, the sun's out.
Yeah. I mean, we went to the vet the very first time that I love this story. The vet walked into the room, and within 2 seconds of just observing her and I, he goes, "Let me guess. You're a nervous Nellie. You always have an ear up because you're listening for anything. You never really relax because you got to make sure that you're aware of everything going on. And this is just kind of who you are." I'm like, "Are you talking to the dog or me?" Because
right?
that's totally me. So the two of us together, we had a really hard couple months, but I've invested in helping her become confident and to grow and to feel safe.
She's taught you how to, you guys have taught each other how to play.
Oh, yeah.
And just be
gentle.
Gentle and work through like her throw ups and poopies on the floor. And she's a
well,
good dog.
Seen it. Right? I know.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah. You go to some like nice high-end stores and she's like peeing and you're like, "Oh my God."
I know. Or she's barking at some little kid. Yeah.
I am most happy or joy-filled when?
Oh, when I'm playing with friends that I love like you. You know, it's truly just being able to be in a space where we have fun. We take things so seriously and so much of my career was so serious. And now it's, let's make this joyful. Let's play, right? And when I meet like-minded souls that can really celebrate what we're doing, that makes me so happy.
That's huge, is just being able to find your tribe. And even if they come in four-legged, species.
Totally.
And Lovebug is?
Lovebug is my salvation. She is my gift.
My truth is?
My truth is that I am love. We all are, and I've had to learn that, is that, one healer that I worked with, he said it so beautifully. He's like, "I am my beloved and my beloved is me."
Ooh.
And that was like, done. Yes. I am the one I am looking for.
Whole and complete and awesome. Oof. What are you daring people to do?
Oh, I'm daring them to give up the old stories that do not serve them. And I'm daring them to look at the beauty within themselves that can help them thrive.
I've taken on that dare personally, so thank you.
Oh, honey, thank you.
That was so fun.
Oh my God, I love it. Sweet.
Thank you so much for watching. And if you like what you see, please subscribe to our channel and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at TruthDare Talk. Trust your truth. I dare you.